watching Daybreak on Arise News. Now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning, let's bring in Arise analyst Constance Ikoku. Good morning, Constance.
Good morning to
Lovely
you,
to
Yolanda.
see you. Yeah.
Happy to see you too. Happy Friday.
Oh yes, so we've been looking forward to this.
Okay, and morning to Nkechi and Charles.
Good morning, Dr. Ikoku.
Yeah.
Good morning, Constance.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, I know how you feel today.
What about you? How do you feel?
Do I feel any different?
Yeah.
Well, I think everybody looks forward to Friday.
I know. Looking forward to have some good rest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to look at the papers with us this morning, we have Eniola Akinkuotu. He is the Chief International Correspondent of the Africa Report. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with This Day. In This Day, Tinubu defends reforms. Cardoso Upbeat on economy, says time for fear is over. Again, President Bola Tinubu is adamant that the painful reforms being carried out are in the long-term interests of the country. Also, his appointee, the central bank governor, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, says the worst is over. Very optimistic declaration right there, Eniola. Do you reckon that the worst is over, as he says, and that we're on the path to recovery? Are we going to see a robust economy anytime soon? What do you reckon?
You recall that the last Nigeria Economic Summit Group conference some months ago, the World Bank said we had to stay the course for about 15 years, thereabouts, for us to see the real effects of these reforms that Tinubu is doing. So I think it's still too early. Let's still wait a bit, you know. That's what I think anyway. Yeah, because we look at the numbers are still not very good. Inflation is still high, unemployment is still high, and then depending now on the rebasing of the GDP to maybe, you know, push the figures up. But as things stand right now, I don't really see, you know, I don't really know why they're so optimistic.
Well, it is going to be a long road. They have to be optimistic because they are a government. And so in spite of the, you know, cost of living crisis across the country, the government wants to show that it is doing something. So I think that's what we are seeing. But you are correct that it's going to be a very, very long road. Let's look at The Guardian this morning. From gown to town, death of first-class solutions mock high turnover of varsity geniuses. What a fitting cartoon on that front page, a graduation hat with first class inscribed on it, and a flock of recent graduates. Again, the question arises, why are we not solving our problems in spite of the high number of students leaving universities every year? What is the essence of all this education? That's a question that The Guardian seems to be asking, Eniola.
Yeah, Buhari, sorry, I'm getting some feedback. Buhari even said it in 2019 that, look, a lot of our universities, they're not making any discoveries, no inventions, you know, everyone's just chasing after degrees, and then we're not seeing what they're doing with it. If you recall, during the COVID-19 pandemic, it was Oxford University that helped in, you know, producing the breakthrough vaccine, AstraZeneca. These are the sort of things that universities are supposed to be doing. Sadly, we don't see all these sort of things in Nigeria. There's just so much emphasis on paper qualification, on university education, but we don't really see the effects in Nigerian society. The best of us, most times, they travel out of the country where they are better appreciated. I really don't see, in fact, if I'm talking from a personal point of view, some of my friends who finished with first class here in University of Lagos, they are not even doing as well as those who had very bad grades. So at the end of the day, that's why, you know, in Nigeria they say it doesn't really matter the course that you studied. It's at the end, it's always about, you know, how you're able to use your connections to land big jobs. So that is the way Nigerian society has been structured. So it's not really encouraging when people finish with first class. Really, it's just good for the, you know, for the prestige and all that. But besides that, it's very little that comes out of it.
So that calls for restructuring in our education, I guess. Let's also see Daily Independent quickly. I'm ready to work with Obi to rescue Nigeria. This is Bauchi governor speaking. Let's take that story with another one on the top left-hand corner of that paper. Reps, they approve a VAT, they leave VAT at 7.5%, adopt tax reform bills. So former Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 elections, Mr. Peter Obi, was in consultation with the governor of Bauchi State, Mr. Bala Mohammed. Mr. Bala Mohammed did say that they will join hands to work for the country, together, irrespective of party, region, and religion. So, guys, 2027 moves, I think, is what's happening now. What are your thoughts on that?
Nkechi and I were actually talking about it. I was actually being rather cynical. Okay, so you're going to join hands with Peter Obi. Ultimately, how is it going to be? Is it going to be your principal as presidential candidate, or are you going to insist on him running as your vice? A lot of things could happen. Most probably, this very same person who is saying he's ready to join hands with Peter Obi, between now and 2027, anything could happen, and they'll be on different divides insulting each other. I mean, the word of a politician can definitely not be taken to the bank, I am sorry to say.
Well, a lot is still happening. We do know that there is pressure on Mr. Obi and his vice presidential candidate in 2023, Dati Baba Ahmed, to move over to the PDP. That's what's going on. But like you said, anything can happen between now and 2027. Kechi, were you itching to say something?
Yeah, like you said, we were talking about it, and Bala Mohammed also went ahead to say, look, Peter Obi right now is leader of your opposition. But as Charles said, I don't think we should get carried away. It's still early days on, and I think everybody's just trying to seek, where can I align myself? Where can I realign myself? But I think the big question is, how valuable would these alignments be? And as we've seen time and time again, Nigerian politicians, they have a master's at the art of making a U-turn. So I wouldn't even hold my breath yet. We also have to note the fact that Bala Mohammed, being in the PDP, supporting Atiku vigorously. What does this then mean for Atiku? Where is Atiku now aligning himself? But I think as time goes on and as the year runs by, we're going to see a lot more alignment, a lot more shifts in the political ecosystem in Nigeria.
They say politics is a game of numbers, but what they don't go ahead to say is that it's also a game of selfish interest.
Right, and let's also note that Bala Mohammed is a chairman of the PDP Governors Forum, so that's significant. Probably one of the reasons why Peter Obi is talking to him. Okay, New Telegraph. Rivers crisis, constituents begin recall proceedings against pro-Wike speaker. Wike's rhetoric, inflammatory, dangerous, embarrassing, according to Bode Judge. A lawyer, Kenneth Amadi, wrote to the Independent National Electoral Commission to begin the recall of Speaker Martin Amewule for the following reason. It says, for defecting to the All Progressives Congress, failure to provide effective representation for his constituents, disobedience of the Supreme Court judgment of February 2025, directing all parties to wait till the final determination of the legal status of Amewule and 26 other lawmakers who defected, among other things. Eniola, how do you see this playing out? It's very difficult to recall people in Nigeria. I mean, it hasn't happened a lot. So where do you see this heading to? It
has never happened before. I think the closest was when it happened there was an attempt to recall Dino Melaye in 2017 or 2018, thereabout, and it failed woefully. It's a very, very, very tedious process. But ultimately, what I even say about this whole Rivers issue is that, look, is there governance even happening in that state at all? And Rivers is one of the most strategic states in Nigeria. After Lagos, you have Rivers, which is the treasure base of Nigeria. It has the third largest number of oil assets in Nigeria, after Akwa Ibom and Delta states. And you expect that, that state's supposed to have gone farther, advanced far more than where it is today. But it's so unfortunate what keeps happening there. Just yesterday now, they said they want to, they've written a petition to DSS, to start investigating the chief judge of Rivers State. who they believe is with Fubara and is going to protect him against impeachment. And so you want a whole chief judge to be removed. That chief judge was brought in, he came in during Wike's tenure. And now you want to remove him. You're accusing him of age falsification. He's been chief judge for more than 5 years. He just discovered now that he's falsified his age just because he wants to remove Fubara. So I don't know. I really pity the Rivers people, sincerely speaking, because they deserve better than this.
Yes, definitely. And that bit about Mr. Bode George, when he said, you all have watched the interview with Minister Nyesom Wike, and Bode George says this is so embarrassing and inflammatory.
It is, you know, when you talk about an ethnic group in that manner, you know, saying, oh, the Ijaws are minority, the Ijaws are this, the Ijaws are that. He forgets that the very first federal appointment he got in his life, that's in Nyesom Wike, was by an Ijaw president, Goodluck Jonathan. And it was also the Ijaw president and his wife that ensured that Wike got the PDP ticket and made sure that he won the governorship election. And Wike became governor for 8 years. So all of a sudden, he now remembers that Ijaws are a minority and Ijaws are this, Ijaws are that. And, you know, he shouldn't speak that way about an entire ethnic group. And I think he needs to apologize for his outburst.
Well, let's see whether that apology comes.
And you're not very optimistic on that.
What else does one say? Let's see a Vanguard newspaper. People both ministerial positions under Tinubu's government, according to El Rufai. We also have that story on the front page of This Day, where it says, El Rufai, I know those who paid to be ministers, says no regrets supporting Tinubu, but not disappointed. Nkechi Charles Yolanda scandalous allegation by former governor of Kaduna State.
I don't really have much to say on this. This is always my thought process when people come out and make allegations like this. If you know the people that paid for ministerial appointments, please tell us their names and tell us the amounts that they paid, because you yourself were a candidate to be minister, and he has always said that, look, I didn't lobby for that. The president begged him to do that because they were focusing on the power sector and all that. But at the same time, this is something that we see always in Nigeria. When you align with a candidate and they win, and then you don't get what you want, you go ahead. Now he's moved to another party, and he keeps on talking about how the administration is not doing well, how he's the party left him. He said he didn't leave the party left him. So I think it's just typical Nigerian politics.
Yeah. Charles, you think it's also a case of sour grapes?
That exactly was, you just took the words out of my mouth. This is just sour grapes. I mean, you don't get what you want from the All Progressives Congress, then you go around, you know, casting all sorts of aspersions on the party, telling us what we already know anyway, but of course making your bitterness so very obvious. Then you deny that you're not moving to that particular party. The next moment you issue press statements, and of course it's all over the social media space. That same party you deny defecting to, you've defected to again. So what sort of inconsistency is this? I mean, this man is always doing an about face on almost everything he espouses.
All right, right.
I would like to chime in with just a little statement here, because I want to align with what Nkechi has said. What is the relevancy of this information? What is the relevancy of actually saying that if you're not going to give all this information? And also, as Charles has said, you know, you've moved to a new party now. There's a lot going on. And I even saw yesterday that he has a new TikTok page, and I was surprised to see that. You know? I said, oh, and he was saying, you know, he was saying that now you can expect more conversations, more debate. And I said, wow, on TikTok, this is a new one.
He needs to reach more people, and we know that Mr. El Rufai is known for his sharp tongue. So I'm expecting that TikTok to really blow out.
The man is getting ready for elections.
Yes.
This is what it's about. Let's see the Punch. FG knocks Obasanjo as ex-president, rates Buhari worst in corruption. He also said the President Bola Tinubu government is toeing the same path as Buhari. All this contained in his latest book, Nigeria, Past and Future. said Buhari's corrupt government was aided and abetted by his Minister of Justice and Attorney General Abubakar Malami. He said, and I quote, "The most atrocious waste, enthronement of corruption and discouragement of officials fighting corruption took place under the watch of President Buhari, and the devil's workshop, his Attorney General, Abubakar Malami." Quick comment on that, Eniola, before we go to the international headlines.
Devil's workshop. That's quite interesting. Well, if you look at the entire Emefiele probe and the prosecution currently going on in court, you realize that yes, a lot of corruption did happen under Buhari's watch, especially with the FX allocation and all that. It was a huge scam, and I personally believe that if an opposition government had taken over from had succeeded Buhari's government, I'm sure we would have seen a lot more revelations than the Emefiele one. Also recall that there were some convictions under Buhari's watch, but during that period too, we recall that he pardoned quite a number of them. He pardoned Jolly Nyame, who had been convicted for stealing money while he was a Taraba State governor. He pardoned Joshua Darie, who had been convicted too for stealing money while he was governor of Plateau State. And then the long prosecution of Danjuma Goje, they mysteriously dropped it overnight when Goje decided that he was stepping down from the Senate presidency race. So, yes, there were a lot of corruption under Buhari's watch. I agree with that. But, some also criticize Obasanjo that under your watch, too, you wouldn't say that there wasn't any corruption, at least.
All right. All right, and it's interesting also that apart from Emefiele, every other person that might have been involved in corruption in that administration is at home chilling. And that's Nigeria. When there are no severe consequences, why should the next administration or government try to be transparent? This is what is happening in the country. It's just a cycle. Let's look at the international headlines. Daily Graphic, Auditor General's recoveries hit 31.5 million cedis, money transferred to consolidated fund. So the new Ghanaian government is trying to plug loopholes in government finance. Citizen newspaper, budget battle brews. We're learning that the South African Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, may be forced to take back the budget to find other means of revenue as opposition against the VAT hike heightens. There's a stiff infighting between the African National Congress and its coalition partner, the Democratic Alliance, a liberal political party. And then onto the Times, Putin backs ceasefire in Ukraine, but on his own terms. Deal must not let Kyiv rearm, says Kremlin. Russian leader proposes direct call to Trump. Yolanda, you can jump in here. Well, it seems we're getting somewhere. He's ready for a ceasefire, but he's giving conditions for that.
Are we surprised that Putin has conditions?
Exactly.
I don't think this comes as a surprise to anyone. I actually think that this is just a statement of fact based on what we know about Russia and how Putin has held things in the past. This really comes as no surprise, and we're just expecting more of the details as they unfold.
Putin's argument is that Russia has the momentum now. So it is when we have the momentum that you're now asking for a ceasefire so that Ukraine would rearm and re-energize. So who's going to monitor the ceasefire at that very vast front line? He's raising questions, and of course Zelensky's response to that is that Putin is being mischievous here and they should impose more sanctions on him.
In addition to that, In addition to that, I think also Putin is showing that despite the way that America has been making it seem that, okay, they're in the middle of things and helping out with the mediations and the talks, Putin is showing that at the end of the day, he has the final say.
Yeah, but Yolanda, to piggyback on what you're saying, we do know that Russia is a major superpower.
Absolutely.
It's one of the heavily nuclear-armed countries in the world. So when it comes to major powers, usually they don't allow themselves to be dictated to because they have a lot of the cards. So he's looking at a negotiated settlement that is in the long-term interest of his country. So that's what it is. Let's look at our last...
Great choice of words.
Our last paper, Daily Mail. Finally, patients to be put before NHS bureaucrats. 9,300 jobs to go as ministers scrap NHS England to improve care and crack down on work rate. I know Nkechi was saying something about this yesterday, about Keir Starmer trying to rebrand, but a lot of changes going on at the same time.
I think he's arguing that this decision will redirect funds to frontline services, and he's also saying that there's a lot of bureaucracy, and he's saying that NHS England duplicates the work that's already been done by the Department of Health and Social Care. I just think, I mean, he knows what he's doing. He sees the vision, and he thinks a lot of millions of pounds can be saved. But it will be in the details of how they go ahead with this policy, because this is a very tricky issue. The NHS is actually always used with politicians when it comes to like campaigning, and so for removing that is a really big deal, and it's risky.
Well, the NHS is actually also on its knees. Oh, I'm so sorry. NHS is on its knees at the moment, and everyone who knows about it knows that the system is just struggling. So this is a very brave move on the side of Keir Starmer, and we wait to see how that plays out.
Brave move indeed.
Yes.
Bold actions. Okay, we have to go now. Thank you so much, Eniola Akinkuotu, Chief International Correspondent of the Africa Report, for joining us today.
And we'd like to thank you, Dr. Constance Ikopu, for always joining us on the newspaper review and steering the ship. That's all we have for you here on Daybreak. I am Nkechi Nana.
And I'm Charles Eruka. It's goodbye from me.
I'm Yolanda Robert. Do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.